In the ancient sands of Egypt, under the towering gaze of stone gods and the rule of powerful pharaohs, a people labored in silence, their cries muffled beneath the weight of oppression. They were the Israelites, descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, strangers in a foreign land, once honored guests, now enslaved under cruel taskmasters. For 400 years, their hands built cities not their own. Their sons were taken, their dignity stripped, their God seemingly distant. Yet, in the heavens, a covenant remained. A promise, whispered through generations, was stirring again. And then, in the most unexpected of places, a burning bush on the edge of the wilderness, destiny called out to one man, Moses, a fugitive shepherd with a past buried in palace walls, chosen by the Eternal to confront the throne of the world's most powerful empire. What followed was not merely a rebellion, nor a revolution, but a divine reckoning. Waters would turn to blood. Darkness would swallow the day. The cry of the oppressed would become the cry of a nation reborn. This is the Exodus, a journey through plagues and miracles, through parted seas and desert trials, from bondage to covenant, from despair to divine destiny. The story of how God remembered his people and how a nation learned to walk by faith. The bondage in Egypt, minutes 1 to 5. The story begins in the ancient land of Egypt, a land of towering pyramids, endless deserts, and the mighty Nile. Here, the children of Israel had dwelt for over 4 centuries. What began as a place of refuge during famine, under the leadership of the righteous Joseph, had slowly become a house of bondage. Joseph, the beloved son of Jacob, once held the second highest office in the land, a vizier under Pharaoh. Because of him, Egypt survived famine, and his family, the descendants of Abraham, found safety in the land of Goshen. But time passed. Generations came and went. The memory of Joseph faded into history, and then a new king arose over Egypt who knew not Joseph. Exodus 1:8. This new Pharaoh did not see the Hebrews as a blessing, but as a threat. Their numbers had multiplied greatly. They were fruitful, strong, and filled the land. Pharaoh feared that in the event of war, they might join Egypt's enemies, so his heart was filled with fear, and that fear birthed cruelty. He enslaved them. The children of Israel were stripped of freedom. They were forced into hard labor, day and night. They made bricks without straw, built great store cities for Pharaoh, Pithom, and Ramses. The sound of their groans rose up with the smoke of kilns. Whips cracked, sweat fell like rain upon the ground. Their lives were made bitter, every day a burden of suffering. But Pharaoh's fear deepened. He ordered the unthinkable. Every Hebrew male child born into this world was to be thrown into the Nile. A river that once gave life now turned into a place of death. Hebrew mothers weeping, soldiers taking babies, shadowy silhouettes by the Nile. Yet, in the midst of this horror, God's providence stirred. A Hebrew woman, Jochebed, gave birth to a son. For 3 months, she hid him. When she could hide him no longer, she placed him in a basket of reeds, coated with tar and pitch, and gently set it upon the waters of the Nile. With trembling hope, she entrusted her child to God. Visuals: a dim room with Jochebed cradling baby Moses, a basket floating down the river, soft ripples on the Nile. And then, a miracle. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to the river to bathe. She saw the basket, she opened it, the baby cried, and her heart was moved with compassion. Though she knew he was a Hebrew child, she took him in and raised him as her own. The baby was named Moses, meaning drawn out of the water. Moses would grow up in the royal palace, clothed in fine linen, educated in all the wisdom of Egypt. Yet he never forgot who he truly was. Pharaoh's palace, Moses, as a young prince learning hieroglyphs, gazing at his people from afar, troubled. This child, drawn from the water, would one day confront Pharaoh. He would speak on behalf of God. He would lead his people to freedom. But for now, the children of Israel remained in bondage, crying out under the weight of slavery. And God heard. Wide desert landscape, slaves collapsing from exhaustion, Hebrew prayers rising like smoke, the heavens rumbling faintly. And God heard their groaning. And God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw the people of Israel, and God knew. Exodus 2:24-25, the call of Moses. After striking down an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave, Moses became a fugitive, a prince turned wanderer. He fled Egypt and journeyed deep into the wilderness, to the desert land of Midian. There, far from the riches of Pharaoh's court, he found refuge, humility, and a new life. He married Zipporah, daughter of Jethro, the priest of Midian, and became a shepherd. For 40 long years, Moses tended flocks in solitude. He walked the quiet paths between rocky crags, learning patience, obedience, and the silence of the desert. But God had not forgotten him. Panoramic desert views, Moses herding sheep, quiet sunsets over Midian. Then one day, as Moses approached Mount Horeb, also called the Mountain of God, something astonishing happened. He saw a bush engulfed in flames, but it was not consumed. Dramatic CGI of the burning bush, golden flames dancing but not destroying, Moses shielding his eyes. From within the fire, a voice spoke, "Moses, Moses," and he answered, "Here I am." God said, "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." In awe and trembling, Moses removed his sandals. The desert had become sacred. Then God revealed his name and his covenant. "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." God had seen the suffering of his people in Egypt. Their cries had risen to heaven. "I have seen their affliction," the Lord said. "I have heard their groaning. I know their sorrows, and I have come down to deliver them." And to Moses, the shepherd fugitive, God gave a divine calling. "Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." But Moses was afraid. "Who am I," he asked, "that I should go to Pharaoh?" God replied, "I will be with you." Close-up of Moses' overwhelmed face, the glowing bush reflected in his eyes, dramatic desert lighting. To aid him, God gave him signs. A staff turned into a serpent, a hand turned leprous and healed. Still, Moses hesitated. So God appointed Aaron, his brother, to speak for him. And so, obedient to the divine call, Moses returned to Egypt, not as a prince, but as a prophet. Before Pharaoh he stood, staff in hand, proclaiming the command of the Almighty. "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go." But Pharaoh, proud and obstinate, laughed. "Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice?" And he refused. Moses and Aaron in Pharaoh's throne room, Egyptian guards sneering, the clash of kingdoms. This was no ordinary resistance. Pharaoh's heart was hardened by pride, by fear, by divine judgment. And thus began a series of wonders and plagues, revealing the might of the true and living God. But before this epic confrontation, we must look back to the beginning of Israel's oppression. A new Pharaoh had come to power, one who knew not Joseph. No gratitude remained for the Hebrew who once saved Egypt from famine. Instead, he feared the Hebrews' growing numbers. "Let us deal shrewdly with them," Pharaoh said, "lest they multiply, and in war join our enemies." And so the Israelites were enslaved, forced into back-breaking labor under the scorching sun. With whips on their backs and sorrow in their hearts, they built treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. Their lives were made bitter, with bricks, with mortar, and with cruelty. Harsh sun, scenes of men building stone walls, mothers crying, overseers yelling commands. But Pharaoh's fear darkened into violence. He decreed that every newborn Hebrew boy be cast into the Nile. In the midst of this terror, a mother, a daughter of Levi, defied the king. She placed her baby boy in a woven basket, sealed with pitch, and set him afloat upon the waters of the Nile, entrusting him to God. The basket drifted among the reeds, until it was discovered by none other than Pharaoh's daughter. She had compassion and raised the child as her own, and his name was Moses, drawn out of the water. Baby in a basket, the Nile glistening, royal palace gardens, young Moses in Egyptian garb, raised in Pharaoh's court with the finest of education and privilege. Moses grew up knowing both the wealth of Egypt and the identity of his people. But God was preparing him for a greater task. A prince would become a shepherd would become a prophet, and a prophet would become a deliverer. The 10 plagues, Egypt, the land of gods and gold, now faced the judgment of the one true God. Through Moses, God sent 10 plagues, each striking at the heart of Egypt's power and religion. 1. The Nile turned to blood, the source of Egypt's life. 2. Frogs swarmed the land. 3. Gnats rose from the dust. 4. Swarms of flies. 5. Disease on livestock. 6. Boils on man and beast. 7. Hailstorm and fire. 8. Locusts that devoured crops. 9. Darkness covered the land for 3 days. But Pharaoh would not yield until the final blow, the death of every Egyptian firstborn. God instructed the Israelites to sacrifice a lamb and mark their doorposts with its blood. That night, the angel of death passed over the houses marked in obedience, sparing the firstborn of Israel. In the middle of the night, Egypt mourned, and Pharaoh finally let them go. Visuals, dramatic CGI of each plague, Jewish families painting doorposts, Egyptian mourning. The Exodus begins. The Israelites, men, women, and children, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, left Egypt in haste. They carried unleavened bread, gold given by the Egyptians, and the bones of Joseph, as promised. God led them not by the main road, but through the wilderness. By day, a pillar of cloud. By night, a pillar of fire, a divine GPS guiding his people. But Pharaoh's heart turned again. He pursued them with chariots and soldiers. Trapped between the sea and the army, the Israelites cried in fear. Then God commanded Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea." And the Red Sea parted. The Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground. But when the Egyptians pursued, the waters returned, and Pharaoh's army was drowned. On the far side, the people rejoiced. Miriam, the sister of Moses, led them in song. "The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation." Visuals, people walking with children, animals, Red Sea parting, chariots sinking, desert rejoicing. The wilderness journey. Though they were freed from Egypt, their journey to the Promised Land had just begun. In the desert, God tested them and taught them. He turned bitter water sweet. He rained down manna from heaven. He brought water from a rock. At Mount Sinai, he gave the 10 Commandments, his covenant. But the people often grumbled. They feared, they doubted, they built a golden calf. Yet God remained faithful. For 40 years they wandered, shaped into a holy nation, a people called by his name. Visuals: manna falling, Mount Sinai lightning, tablets of the law, tents in desert. The Exodus is more than ancient history. It is the story of deliverance, of a God who hears the cries of the oppressed, who acts with power, and who walks with his people through the wilderness. For the Israelites, it was the beginning of a covenant journey. For the world, it became the symbol of liberation, hope, and divine promise. And even today, across centuries and continents, the cry still echoes, "Let my people go." Dear beloved in Christ, if you have found this video helpful, inspiring, or spiritually uplifting, I kindly ask you to support this humble ministry. Watch the full video. Your full attention helps increase our watch hours and lets YouTube recommend it to more people. Subscribe to the channel. This helps you receive every new video and strengthens our community. Like and share. Let others also be blessed by this message by sending it to family, friends, and fellow believers. Comment below. Share your thoughts, reflections, or even corrections if needed, so we can grow together in truth and love. Your support helps us continue spreading the light of the Orthodox faith through these videos. May God bless you abundantly for your contribution.